Okay, so just now I have explained and given examples on cardinal approach or cardinal theory related to utility or customers' level of satisfaction. So now we are going to look at the second approach, which is ordinal approach, okay, which says that utility or satisfaction cannot be measured. So how do you know whether a consumer is satisfied from consuming a certain product or not? Is through ranking of products that the person or the consumer likes the most and the products that the consumer doesn't like. Okay, so now in order to show or in order to explain on the ordinal approach of customer satisfaction, okay, we are going to learn about indifference curve. Okay, so what is indifference curve? It shows the combinations of two goods, okay, different types of combinations of two goods, let's say product A and product B, which will give the same level of satisfaction. So later on, I'm going to show you a table that shows the different combination of A and B ataupun X and Y that will generate the same level of satisfaction. Okay, so before that, you have to make an assumption first. Okay, so the first assumption that we have to make is there is a scale of preferences, meaning a consumer knows or the consumer knows what he likes, okay, the products that he wants to consume the most, and what he doesn't like. So it's easy for the consumer to know which product will give him the most satisfaction and which product will give him the less or the least satisfaction. Okay, and then the second assumption is consumers' preferences are transitivity. Okay, so let's say if the consumer has an option of consuming product A, okay, A, B, and C. Okay, let's say this consumer, okay, the consumer likes product A more than product B and C. So what it means by transitivity here is when the consumer likes product A more than product B and C, it means that the consumer prefers product A as compared to product C. Okay, so that is what we mean by consumers' preferences are transitivity. Okay, and then the third assumption is the consumer must be rational. Okay, rational here means the consumer wants to be the consumer is behaving normally, meaning the consumer wants to maximize his satisfaction from consuming the different types of products. So a normal consumer always wants to maximize his satisfaction. So that is a rational consumer. Okay, and then the fourth assumption is there is a diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So later on, I'm going to explain on what do we mean by marginal rate of substitution. So for now, what you need to understand is as you consume more and more of one product, you have to reduce the consumption of the other product. Okay, so that is the reason behind it is because of scarcity lah. Okay, the main concept that you learn about in microeconomics is the term scarcity. So because of scarcity, you have to choose whether to consume more of product A or more of product B. If you want to consume more of product A, you have to reduce the consumption of product B. So there will be a marginal rate of substitution there ataupun opportunity cost in other terms. Okay, so diminishing marginal rate of substitution here is actually the same concept as opportunity cost. Okay, and then the fifth assumption is there is concept of ordinal utility, meaning the products are ranked based on which of them will give the highest satisfaction to the consumers. Okay. Alright, so once we have all these assumptions here, then we can understand what do we mean by indifference curve. So let's say you are given this schedule here. Okay, so you have different combinations. You have combination A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, and then this combination actually shows the different units of product X and product Y that a consumer can consume, which will give them the same level of satisfaction. Contohnya, if the consumer consume 12 units of good Y and 2 units of good X, it will give him the same level of satisfaction as consuming 6 units of good Y and 4 units of good X. So this combination here, okay, will give same level of satisfaction. Okay, so when you illustrate or when you put all this information on a graph, okay, what you will get is this graph. So this is combination A just now, when the consumer consume 12 good Y and 2 good X. Okay, 12 good Y and 2 good X. And for point B here is when the consumer consumes 6 good X and 4 good Y. Oh sorry, terbalik. Okay, 6 good Y and 4 good X. Okay. Alright, and so on. So when you plot the graph, what you will get is a curve here, a red curve here, which is called as indifference curve. It's showing the combination of different combinations of good X and good Y, which give the same level of satisfaction. Okay. So, how do we know whether the level of satisfaction by the consumer is increasing or decreasing? So what you will get is this indifference map. So indifference map here shows a different level of satisfaction that a consumer can get from consuming the two products, okay, X and Y. So here, the blue one here is the lowest level of satisfaction. Okay, lowest satisfaction. The red one here is in the middle, and IC3 here, the highest level of, it shows the highest level of satisfaction. And it can also be higher, okay, if the indifference curve increase even further, meaning the higher the indifference curve, okay, the higher the indifference curve, the higher the level of satisfaction. Okay, so it says here, the higher the indifference curve, the higher the level of satisfaction. The lower the indifference curve, the lower the level of satisfaction. Okay, so that is what we mean by indifference curve or indifference map. So indifference curve shows just one level of satisfaction. Indifference map shows different level of satisfaction. So you have a few numbers of indifference curve in one graph. Okay. Alright. Okay, now this is what I mean by marginal rate of substitution just now from the assumption that I explained before this. Okay, so it refers to the rate at which one good is substituted for another good due to scarcity. Okay, so you learn from topic 1, because of scarcity, you have to make choice between two different products, okay, whether to consume product A more or to consume more of product B. If you want to consume more of product A, you have to reduce product B. So that is your opportunity cost. Okay, how much product B you have to reduce in order for you to consume more of product A. So same concept you can apply here. Okay, except that now we are calculating lah. Okay, how much is the marginal rate of substitution? Okay, for example, here if you want to consume one additional unit of product X, okay, the number of product Y that you have to reduce is 4 units. So the rate of substitution is 4Y to 1X. Okay, that is the ratio here. If you want to add another additional unit of good X, you have to reduce 3 units of good Y. So the ratio is 3Y and 1X. And then if you want to add another unit of good X, you have to reduce 2 and then 1 unit of good Y. So you can see here that the number of good Y, or the units of good Y that you have to reduce, or you have to let go, is decreasing ataupun is reducing. So that is what we mean by the diminishing rate of substitution. Okay, the number of opportunity cost here when you want to consume more of good X is reducing. Okay. Alright, now we want to look at what are the characteristics of indifference curve that we have explained, that I have explained just now. Okay, so first is indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. So it is downward sloping. Okay, indifference curve is downward sloping. So you understand when the curve is downward sloping, it has a negative relationship, meaning there is a negative relationship between good X and good Y because of marginal rate of substitution just now. Okay, so when you want to consume more of good X, you have to reduce the consumption of good Y. If you want to consume more of good Y, we have to reduce the consumption of good X. So that's why your indifference curve is downward sloping. Okay, and then indifference curve are convex to the origin. Okay, so you learn in topic 1 that when PPC, production possibility curves, is convex, that is due to the decreasing opportunity cost. So same concept you can apply here. Okay, the shape of indifference curve is convex because of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Okay, higher indifference curve represents higher level of satisfaction, just like what I have explained just now from indifference map here. Okay, the higher the indifference curve, the higher the level of satisfaction. Okay, indifference curve never intersect each other. Okay, why it will not intersect each other? Because different level of combination, okay, will not give the same level of satisfaction. The same level of combination will not give different level of satisfaction. For example, okay, if I show you a graph here, okay, of product X and product Y, and then you have different level of indifference curve. Let's say this is IC0, and then let's say IC0 and IC1 intersects with each other. So these two here shows different level of satisfaction. So it is impossible that the same quantity of X and Y, let's say X here is 3, Y here is 6. So it is impossible that when you consume 3 unit of X and 6 unit of Y, it will give different level of satisfaction. Okay, so that is not possible. Consuming one combination of product will give you just one level of satisfaction. It will not intersect. Okay, the indifference curve will not intersect with each other. Okay, the fifth characteristic is indifference curve does not touch the y-axis or x-axis, because the concept of indifference curve is it wants to show the combination of X and Y that a consumer can consume. So if the indifference curve touches the x-axis and y-axis, okay, it doesn't really explain, or it doesn't really show the combination of X and Y. For example, if indifference curve touches y-axis, it shows that X here is equal to 0, meaning the consumer does not consume product X. So it does not fulfill the characteristics or the concept of indifference curve. So indifference curve shows a combination. When X is 0, it doesn't show any combination of X and Y. Okay, meaning the consumer only consume product Y. And if indifference curve touches X axis here, it means that the consumption of Y equals to 0, meaning the consumer doesn't consume product Y. So it does not show any combination here. Okay, so it must not touch X and Y axis. It should be here, somewhere here. Okay, then it shows the combination of X and Y. Okay. Okay, in my explanation for cardinal approach, okay, we have seen two conditions that have to be met. Okay, the first one is the utility or the satisfaction must be maximized, and the satisfaction or the consumption of the products must be within the budget. So the same things we are going to apply for ordinal approach. So just now I have explained on indifference curve, which shows the level of satisfaction that a consumer will get after consuming a certain product. So now we are going to look at how the consumer can maximize the income or use the budget that the consumer has in order to consume two different types of products. Okay, so now we are looking in terms of budget. Okay, if the consumer has limited budget. Okay, so now we have what we call as budget line. Just now we have indifference curve. Now we have what we call as budget line. So what is a budget line? It represents different combinations of two goods. Okay, for example, now we have X and Y, which can be purchased with a given amount of money at a given price of each unit. Okay, so assuming we have two products here, X and Y, and make a little bit of correction here. Okay, it should be product X here. Okay, this one should be product X, and this one should be product Y. Okay, so make the correction on your slide. Okay, so now assuming that a consumer has an income of RM12. Okay, a consumer's income. Okay, consumer's income is RM12. So with this 12 ringgit, okay, a consumer wants to buy either product X or product Y. And let's say you are given the price of product X and product Y. Okay, let's say the price of product X is RM1, and the price of product Y is 50 cents. Okay, so now we want to know, with the income that the consumer has, which is RM12, what is the maximum amount or maximum units of product X that the consumer can buy, and what is the maximum units of product Y that the consumer can buy. So with that 12 ringgit, how many of product X the consumer can buy? Okay, the price of product X is 1 ringgit. So the consumer can buy 12 units of product X. So that will total up to 12 ringgit. And for product Y, since the price is 50 cents, the consumer is able to buy 24 units maximum amount. So that amounts to RM12. So the quantity of product X that the consumer can buy is 12 units, and the quantity of product Y that the consumer can buy is 24 units. So with this information, we can actually construct the budget line. Okay, so you can see here the maximum amount of product X that the consumer can buy is 12, and the maximum amount of product Y that the consumer can buy is 24. Okay, so when you combine the two dots from here to here, you get a line, in which we call as the budget line, meaning the red line here, the red curve here shows the maximum combination, the maximum unit of X and Y that the consumer can buy with the budget that the consumer has. Okay, so maximum here, cannot go further. Further meaning the consumer cannot buy lah, because the budget is only RM12 maximum. Okay, now if let's say there is a change in consumer's income, okay, let's say before this the consumer's income was 12 ringgit, okay, and now the consumer's income has increased. For example, consumer's income increased from RM12 to RM14, for example, okay, and the price of X and Y remains the same, RM1 ringgit. The price of Y remains at 50 cent. So now we want to know how much of product X and product Y, the maximum number of X and Y that the consumer can buy with 14 ringgit. So for product X, the consumer can buy 14 units because the price is 1 ringgit per unit. So that will total to 14 ringgit. And for product Y, okay, the consumer is able to buy 28 units. Okay, that totals up to 40 ringgit. So when consumer's income increase from 12 ringgit to 14 ringgit, the consumer is able to buy 14 units of X and 28 units of Y. So in this case, you will have a different budget line. Okay, so let's say if you want to draw the graph to show the changes in the budget line when there is a change in the income. Okay, so you have the X and Y axis here. So this one is for product X, X, and this one is for product Y. Okay, so initially when the consumer's income was 12 ringgit, okay, the consumer is able to purchase 12 units of good X and 24 units of good Y. Okay, but after there is a change in, or increase in the consumer's income, what will happen is the number of X and Y that the consumer can purchase is increasing. So now, initially when the consumer's income was 12 ringgit, you will have a budget line connected from the maximum amount of Y and the maximum amount of X that the consumer can buy. So let's say I label this as BL0. Okay, and when the price is 14 ringgit, okay, you put here when the consumer's income is 14 ringgit, the amount of X that the consumer can buy is 14 units, okay, which is here, and the amount of Y that the consumer can buy is 28 units here. So you draw another line, okay, from here to here, okay, it should be parallel, okay, and you label it as BL1. Okay, so you can see that your budget line shifts to the right, so it shows that the consumer's income is increasing, and if the consumer's income decrease, the budget line will shift to the left. Okay, now we want to see what will happen to the budget line when there is a change in the price of one of the products. So let's say in this case there is a change in the price of good X. So good X, the price of good X can either increase or decrease. Okay, so change in the price of X. Okay, so let's say the first case is the price of X increase. So assuming consumer's income is fixed at RM12 ringgit. Okay, and the price of X increase. Before this RM1, now it increases to RM2 ringgit, and the price of Y remains the same, 50 cent. So now we want to calculate how much of X and Y that the consumer can buy with the new price of X. So the price of X increased from 1 ringgit to 2 ringgit. So with 2 ringgit, the consumer is only able to buy 6 units of the product. Okay, to utilize the 12 ringgit of budget or income that the consumer have. Okay, and Y remains 24 units. Okay, so now when you want to draw the graph, so this is X and this is Y. Okay, so the initial graph was at 12 units, and this one is at 24 units. Okay, so since the amount of product Y doesn't change, okay, so the changes will only be on the X-axis, okay, in the number of product X that the consumer can buy. So the initial budget line was this one from here to here. So that is your BL0, and then you will have a new budget line. Okay, you will have a new budget line shifting to the left at 6 units of product. So this is BL0. Okay, when the price of X increased from 1 ringgit to 2 ringgit, so the amount of X that the consumer can buy is only 6 units. So you will have a new budget line shifting to the left from here to here. Okay, so you can see the budget line shifts to the left only on the X-axis because it only involves the change in the price of good X. It doesn't involve the change in the price of good Y because price of good Y is constant, so it doesn't change here. Okay, so you label this as BL1. Okay, now what happens if the price of good X decreases? Okay, assuming that the income of consumer is constant and the price of Y is also constant. So the consumer's income is still RM12. The price of X is now decreasing from RM1 ringgit to 50 cent. Okay, so how much of X that the consumer can buy is now increasing to 24 units. Okay, and the price of product Y is constant, which is 50 cent. So the consumer can still buy the same amount of Y, which is 24 units. So 24 units of X and 24 units of Y. So when you draw the graph to show the budget line, again you draw the same thing. Okay, the initial budget line was at 24 and 12. Okay, let's say I put 12 here. Okay, so you have the budget line. Okay, and then you have the new price of X, which is 50 cents. So the unit of X that the consumer can buy is now increasing because the price of X has become cheaper. So now the consumer is able to buy 24 units of X. So you will have a new budget line, which is shifting to the right. Okay, so that is your new budget line. So this is BL0, this is BL1. So it shows that your budget line is increasing on the X-axis. Y remains the same because the price doesn't change. Okay. Okay, now let's say there is a change in the price of good Y, assuming that the consumer's income is constant and the price of good X is constant, doesn't change. Okay, so change in the price of good Y. Okay, so let's say first when the price of Y increase. Okay, assuming consumers' income is the same, RM 12 ringgit constant. The price of X is constant at RM 1 ringgit. It doesn't change. Okay, and the price of Y increases from 50 cent to RM 1. Okay, so now the price of X and Y is the same. So the maximum amount of X that the consumer can buy is 12 units. And the maximum number of Y, okay, that the consumer can buy is also 12 units. So 12 X and 12 units of Y. Okay, so since we assume that the price of X doesn't change, so your budget line will only shift on the Y axis. So I have drawn the initial budget line here, BL0. So now what you have to do is you have to draw a new budget line. Okay, when the unit of the unit of Y is only at 12 units. Now the price of Y increase, so the number of Y that the consumer can buy will reduce from 24 to 12 units. So you draw the new budget line, okay, shifting downward. Okay, so this is your new budget line, BL1. So that is BL1. Okay, shifting downward. Okay, so that is when the price of Y increase. So the quantity of Y that the consumer can purchase is reducing. And now what happens if the price of Y decreases? Okay, assuming that consumers' income is the same, RM12, and the price of X is also the same, RM1. So the consumer can buy 12 units of X. Now the price of Y is reducing. Let's say before this is 50 cent. Now the price is reducing to 40 cent. So how much of product Y that the consumer can buy with the budget of 12 ringgit is 30 units. Okay, so the unit of the quantity of X that the consumer can buy is 12, and the unit of Y that the consumer can buy is now 30 units because the price has become cheaper. So the consumer can buy more. Okay, before this they can buy 24. Now the consumer can buy 30 units of Y. So your budget line will shift upward. Okay, it will shift upward like this. Okay, so you have your new budget line, which is labeled as, what's the issue here? Which is labeled as BL1. Okay, so that is the movement of budget line, either downward or upward based on the change in the price of good Y. Okay, so now when we combine, okay, the budget line and the indifference curve that we have learned just now, okay, what we will get is consumer equilibrium. Okay, if you look at cardinal approach, okay, just now where the utility can be measured, the consumer equilibrium can be obtained when you fulfill the two conditions, which is maximizing satisfaction and maximizing the budget. Okay, so you find the marginal utility per price that is the same for the different products. Okay, now for ordinal approach, for you to find the consumer equilibrium is you have to combine the budget line and the indifference curve. Okay, so now you have here in this slide, Okay, you have the budget line, which is the purple one. Okay, the purple line here is the budget line, BL. Okay, which shows the different combination of X and Y that the consumer can buy with the budget that the consumer has. Okay, and the curve here, the convex curve here, shows the different level of indifference curve. So the higher the indifference curve, the higher the level of satisfaction. Okay, so now we want to know at what point does the consumer equilibrium be achieved. Okay, at point A, point A and point B is not considered as consumer equilibrium. Why? Because even though it touches the budget line, the purple line here, meaning the spending or the consumption is within the budget, but it is actually touching the lower indifference curve, the red one and the blue one. Okay, so it says, before this it says that the lower the indifference curve, the lower the satisfaction. So this one, it doesn't fulfill the condition to, it does not maximize satisfaction. Okay, it is within budget, but it doesn't maximize the consumer's satisfaction. So it doesn't achieve the objective of consumption. And point D and point E here, okay, also implies the same meaning. It is on the budget line, but it touches on the lower indifferent curves. So it still doesn't maximize the satisfaction. Okay, so the point that is considered as consumer equilibrium is point C, because point C is on the budget line, meaning the consumption is within the budget, and it touches the highest indifference curve, which is the green one, meaning it is utilizing the budget within budget. Okay, and it maximizes the satisfaction, the consumer's satisfaction. So the two conditions here are met at this point. Okay, alright, so point C here indicates consumer equilibrium. So that is where the consumer gets equilibrium in terms of the decision making on which product, how many products or product X that the consumer will buy, and how many of product Y that the consumer will buy. Okay, so that is the consumer equilibrium. Okay, this slide here is actually explaining on what I have already shown to you just now. Okay, so there are a few terms for the situation. For example, when the budget line changes because of the change in income, okay, the consumer equilibrium will change. So that is actually explaining on income effect. Okay, this situation just now. Okay, this one. So when there is a change in consumer's income, okay, the consumer equilibrium, okay, will change. Right? In this case, the consumer equilibrium will change because the budget now is different. So that is explaining on income effect. Okay, income effect is defined as the effect on purchases of consumer caused by the change in income. Meaning when there is a change in income, the consumer equilibrium will also change. Price effect, okay, on the other hand, explains what happens to the consumer's equilibrium position when the price of one good changes while the price of another good or other factors remain constant. So this is actually for this case. Okay, when there is a change in the price of good X, we assume that the price of good Y changes. So we can see when price of good X changes, whether increase or decrease, the budget line will change. So when budget line change, the consumer equilibrium will also change. Okay, substitution effect is a situation when both the price of both products are changing. For example, if the price of X increase and at the same time the price of Y decreases. Okay, so that will also cause a change in the consumer equilibrium. Okay, and it's called as substitution effect. So different changes in the price of the two products. Okay. Alright, and this one, consumer surplus, I think I don't have to explain this one because we have already learned about consumer surplus in the previous chapter. So same thing. Okay, this one is actually showing how to calculate consumer surplus. So you can ignore this slide lah. Right, so I think that's it for topic 4. Right.